Hi, welcome to this week's lecture. Today we're going to talk about further developing your case study. Many of you have submitted a draft to me and I've been able to provide feedback to you. And you're off to a great start. But there are some organizational things and other issues that you need to address probably now before we go much further in the course. Recall that your case study is due on May 4th. And it is worth 35% of your grade. Because there was some confusion about some of you doing a practice case study last time, I'm emphasizing again that the case study that you should be concentrating on is located in your syllabus, and I've also clipped it out of the syllabus and put it in this week's learning folder. So if you're unsure if you're working on the right case study, I would encourage you to open it up and take a look at that. It is not the one where two schools are merged. It is the one where the desegregation effort has been ongoing. So as I said, most of you have very good strategies, many good strategies. And so the bulk of the hard work is done, except to prepare you for certification exams. I'm going to teach you now how to organize those strategies and align them with goals and evaluation outcomes. So today we're going to talk about the organization of your paper, how to develop SMART goals and align your strategies with them, and how to evaluate whether the goal was accomplished. If you look carefully at the case study in the syllabus, you'll find that the three major issues are provided for you. Let's review them. Three major issues confront you as you begin your first year as principal. The first issue is, what will you do to motivate your teachers to change their ways to infuse new teaching strategies into their classrooms, and how will you implement a professional growth plan for them? So these teachers are unmotivated. They've been dealing with a different population of students than perhaps they're used to. Perhaps they're unmotivated because they don't know what to do. So it's up to you as an administrator to identify areas of concern, provide appropriate and targeted professional development for the teachers to try to assess where the needs are. What will you do to provide an effective instructional program for all students to raise student achievement and the ranking of Pacific Code? So this gets at the idea of curriculum. What types of curricular changes will you be making? What types of enrichment will you provide? In other words, how will you improve student learning? And then finally, what we do to encourage teachers to collaborate with families and other community members in order to respond to diverse community interests and needs and develop support for the school within the community. So this is about PR or outreach to not only your family, but your community organizations. Many of you are writing about outreach to families in terms of parents, and that's all good, but think about community in a much broader sense as well, as we've talked about in this course. Community can be grandparents. Community can be other extended family members. Community can be professional organizations, business organizations, clubs, hobby groups, anything really in the community. And you want to be able to use all of those resources, as you've seen some profiles of our successful administrators have done during the course. It's important to think about organization. You should have a 1 to 2 paragraph opening that summarizes the case, and I'd say about half of you have that, where you identify what's been going on. And then you talk about each of the three issues that I've just discussed. And you should talk about it this way. Issue 1, you should summarize the issue. So to go back to, if we went back to the previous slide, you would remember that issue would be motivation of the teachers. Then you should come up with not too many, maybe 1 or 2 short-term and 1 or 2 long-term, what we call SMART goals, and we talked about this in the course, and I'll be reviewing that. Some strategies to accomplish the SMART goals, and many of you have these. You just need to think about which goals to align them with. Any resources that are required for you to achieve the goal. So for example, if you plan to purchase curricular materials that you're familiar with, how are you going to do that? There'll be textbook purchase money, for example. Potential challenges is something many of you are missing. You're not thinking proactively. So this is actually embedded in the rubric. If you look at the rubric carefully, and we'll be reviewing the rubric, what difficulties are you likely to encounter, and how will you be proactive about addressing that? And finally, how you evaluate whether the SMART goal or goals has been accomplished. You'll do this for each issue. Issue 1, summarize SMART goals, strategies, resources, potential challenges, evaluation. Issue 2, summarize SMART goals, strategies, etc. And then issue 3, etc. And in the end, have a concluding paragraph, perhaps that states what you hope to accomplish in your first year or two as administrator. This is an ideal organizational layout because everything is aligned, everything is measurable, and everything is very thought out. Central or very key to everything is the development of SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. Let's take a look at 2 SMART goals. By May 1st, 2013, there will be a 50% increase in the number of students in math pull-out interventions who have grown 1 grade level from math pre-test to post-test as measured by the Brigance diagnostic testing tool. Let's take a look. I would think we would agree that is very specific. It is measurable because you're asking to measure a 50% increase. It is actionable because you can do things, you can think of strategies to accomplish it. It is relevant. This means, is it relevant to the issues, the 3 issues you're trying to address? If your identified problems are reading and math, for example, as I believe they are in the case study, you need to address those. And it's time-bound. It says an end date. Look at the second one. By May 2013, there will be an 80% change in the physical environment in the school climate as measured or evidenced by the physical appearance and cleanliness of Jacksonville High School. It's specific, it's measurable, 80%. You could probably think of ways to measure whether the school facility is cleaner. You could have people walk around and do random spot checks of trash, and you would expect to see that go down over time, perhaps by as much as 80%. It's actionable. You can think of strategies, ways to accomplish it. It's relevant, perhaps to whatever their issues are, and it's time-bound. So this is what we mean by SMART goals. You also think about evaluation. So there's the issue, there's the SMART goals, there's strategies to accomplish the SMART goals, but at the end, you have to think about how you will see if you were successful. For example, for the SMART goal that we covered about the Brigance diagnostic test, your evaluation might be to administer a pre-test and a post-test and measure the growth in math pull-out students who have participated in an intervention, if you chose a curricular intervention, for example. So the evaluation doesn't have to be complicated, but there has to be some target you're trying to hit, and there must be some way to measure it. I have created an alignment table for you, and it's part of this week's assignment. Let's take a look at it. You'll notice running across the top there are labels: issue, SMART goals, strategies, resources, and evaluations. There are 3 rows below these headers. Each of the rows represents one of the 3 issues. So you would put this first issue, teacher motivation, in the first row in the dark blue box, for example, and you would continue with the second issue, which is student achievement, and then the third issue. And you would continue like that. Across the aligning across, you would put the SMART goals that you could think of, 1 or 2 short-term and 1 or 2 long-term, to accomplish to make the issue better. Your strategies, which you already have, it could be entered in bullet form, how you will accomplish the SMART goal, what resources you might need, and how you will evaluate whether the SMART goal was accomplished. And an example. So this is a very simple example of one SMART goal. So to increase teacher motivation, maybe you could ask 75% of the teachers to utilize a strategy that is new to them and appropriate to ESL or ELL students by June 1st. To accomplish that, you might conduct team focus groups to ascertain the need, what is going on with the teachers. In other words, is it that they don't understand the strategies? Is that they do understand them and don't want to use them? And then you could develop targeted PD on cultural awareness or motivation, or perhaps even strategies to give to teachers. To do that, you would need funding for the PD. And then to evaluate that, you might conduct walkthroughs or analyze lesson plans at the start and the end of the academic year to determine if you did have that hit that 75% target. So you wouldn't just do one SMART goal. You would probably do 2 to 4, 1 or 2 long-term and 1 or 2 short-term. This would be considered a short-term goal. Long-term goals are generally in the area of 2 to 5 years. Anything 1 year within this year, maybe even up to 2 years, might be considered a short-term goal. This week, I would like you to complete this table. You may use the strategies that you have in your document, but this is going to sort of force you to come up with your SMART goals, your resources, and your evaluation. Again, you're going to put it all in this organized fashion. Once you've completed this table, the rewrite of your draft should be fairly easy because you can just speak to the table and step down each row. Again, much of this is already written for you. I'm just asking you to reorganize it a bit. Before you rewrite, I'd like you to consider and look at the rubric, which is the grading rubric, which is in the syllabus. Anytime you have a major assignment, it's a good idea to spend a few minutes carefully reading the rubric, because this is how we must grade your project. The rubric asks that you mobilize diverse cultural, social, and intellectual resources. So how will you bring in community members? How will you bring in businesses? How will you bring in family to help the school? It asks that you be respectful and look at strategies to establish trust and support. It asks that you develop a positive school culture and implement an appropriate instructional program and a professional development plan. It asks that you encourage collaboration to develop support for the school. You must think about the perspectives of these different family members, students, and community members coming together. It's a good idea to articulate them in your first few paragraphs, to acknowledge that you recognize that there are differences, and how will you overcome them. It must be logically and systematically developed, and indicators of success, the evaluation component, must be described. And if you look at the rubric, you want to be in the target level, the column all the way over, that's 3 points. And what I would do if I were you is I would take my paper, I would organize my table, and then I would look at the rubric and say, now if I rewrite the paper that looks like this table, will it hit all of the areas of the rubric? That's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. You're going to create your table, which I put in this week's learning folder, and you're going to upload it as an attachment to your discussion board posting. Thank you.